Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now we recently spoke about the 12GB Nvidia RTX 3060, a graphics card that is still very much worth buying as we move into 2026, especially if you intend to play games at 1080p resolution. There are actually a few variants of this card. We have the original 3060 with 12GB of GDDR6 memory that launched in early 2021, a cut down 8GB version which started to appear in late 2022 offering inferior performance, and this started to emerge somewhere in between. So what is it? Well, this is the Inno3D RTX 3060 Twin X2, a version of the 3060 that's based on the GA104 GPU instead of the GA106 GPU found within most models. The larger GA104 GPU is what the 3060 Ti, 3070 and 3070 Ti are based on, so you wouldn't expect to find it here. Instead of taking a surplus stock of defective GPU dies that can't be used in the aforementioned and higher end 30 series models and throwing them away, Nvidia just repurposed them by disabling cores, TMUs and ROPs. This isn't the first time a graphics card has had its GPU changed after it launched. The 2060 and 1650 also come to mind. Now in terms of specifications, the GA104 3060 remains mostly the same as the GA106 version. We've got 12GB of GDDR6 VRAM, 3584 CUDA cores, a 192-bit bus width and 360GB per second bandwidth. We do however get a higher ROP or render output unit count, 64 compared to 48 on the original card, and therefore a higher pixel fill rate of 113.7 compared to 85.3. According to a handful of articles I found, GA104 based 3060s started to first appear in China before making their way elsewhere. I found this one at CEX here in the UK and I bought it because it looked cool. I had no idea this was the less common GA104 card until I checked GPU-Z, but there are no complaints from me because it led to the idea for this video. So what about performance? I can't find any comparisons online, but I've read a handful of forum posts whereby users have experienced better rendering results in certain programs with the newer GA104 card. Now I no longer have the GA106 3060 to make any new comparisons, but I did save the benchmark results from my testing a few weeks back, so let's see if there are any gaming differences here today. We'll start with Cyberpunk 2077. Now the gameplay you're seeing on screen throughout is from that of the newer GA104 3060, the Inno3D version that I showcased at the start. Now in Cyberpunk at 1080p with the Ultra preset, this will hit 64 frames per second. It's a pretty decent result to be honest. The 1.1% lows were 51 and 50 respectively, so really can't complain during my custom benchmark run here. Things remained very consistent. When we compare this to the results of an original RTX 3060, the GA106 based card, well, we're getting pretty much identical performance, 64 FPS. The 1% low was actually slightly higher, 52, and the 0.1% low was also 50. So figures that are well within margin of error, especially in terms of that 1% low frame rate. Next up, it's GTA 5 Enhanced with the very high RT preset and DLAA, running once again at 1080p, just like all of the tested games today. Now our GA104 based 3060 hit 90 frames per second with a 1% low of 73 and a 0.1% low of 71. Again, it's a very consistent result with no frame rate issues or hiccups. This actually performed ever so slightly better. Again though, it's really within margin of error territory compared to the GA106 original GPU that hit 89 frames per second, and that actually scored a better 1% low as well, 74 compared to 73, and the 0.1% figures were basically the same, 71. So it's certainly not anything you're going to notice. From a few posts I could find, I was told to expect between 2 and 5% performance difference, but we haven't really seen that yet, but that could change. Next up we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at 1080p with a high preset and SMAA2TX enabled here. The newer GA104 based 3060 hits 77 frames per second with a 1% low of 67 and a 0.1% low of 66. Again, a very smooth and consistent result during my custom benchmark run. This actually performed about 3 frames per second better than the original model, which hit 74 FPS. The 1% low was, however, 1 FPS better, as was the 0.1% low, but these figures aren't significantly different enough for you to notice any performance impact here. The Outer Worlds 2 next with the medium preset and DLAA enabled once again. We hit 60 frames per second on the GA104 base 3060, a 1% low of 47 and a 0.1% low of 43. I'm surprised at how well the 3060 is holding up in terms of percentile lows really. It offers a decent 1080p experience even in late 2025, as I said at the start, and if you're looking for a card that's going to run all of your favourite titles at 1080p with respectable settings, this is still a solid choice thanks to its VRAM. I try and avoid the 8GB version because it's cut down in more ways than just the memory, and you may be disappointed when you compare results to this 12GB model. Back on subject then, and the GA104 base 3060 is pretty much performing once again identically to the GA106 original card, which hit 59 FPS, a 1% low of 48 and a 0.1% low of 44. For Oblivion Remastered, we have the medium preset with high textures enabled and reflections as well. Setting the high reflections is always a good idea. It transforms the water quality and it doesn't really impact performance that much. The 3060 GA104 couldn't quite hit 60 frames per second without any upscaling here. We were looking at 52 FPS with a 1% low of 38 and a 0.1% low of 26, so still a pretty respectable result given how demanding this title can be on a wide range of cards. For Battlefield 6, with the medium preset and the high-res textures installed, of course, thanks to the large amounts of VRAM on offer from this GPU, we have 96 FPS on average, the 1% low was 79 and the 0.1% low was 74. The GA106 card hit 98 FPS with a 1% low of 80 and a 0.1% low of 75. So there is a theme definitely starting to emerge here, and I'm sure that a lot of you expected this going into this video, but it's interesting to confirm things, I guess. We'll finalise then with the excellent Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that has not left my library since I first installed it a few years ago. 88 frames per second with the GA104 3060 is a very solid result indeed. This is with the ultra textures and everything else set to high. We have 88 as the average, 1% low of 71 and a 0.1% low of 56. So a few dips and drops in and around Valentine, but that just about does it for the gaming results. From all of our tested games then, there are no significant differences to note. I was kind of expecting this, though I did think there may have been one or two outliers. That doesn't seem to be the case, especially not in terms of the average performance, and at least not from my relatively small sample of benchmarks. The 3060 is still a good choice, the 12GB version that is, and you shouldn't be concerned with which version you end up with if you're looking for one of these on the used market, be it the GA104 or the GA106 based card. You might find that the GA104 based card runs a little cooler than GA106 counterparts because of the larger die size, the heat is spread out over a larger surface area, and because the GA104 chip has been cut down for the 3060, the disabled components may also have a positive impact on heat generated. Again, it could be negligible though, and temps are going to vary from model to model and cooler to cooler. I was most curious about the gaming results today after noticing that I had one of these, and I hope you have enjoyed watching, and hopefully it's answered some questions that you may not have even had going into this video. I'll have to keep an eye out for different variations of other cards as well, such as the aforementioned 2060 and 1650. But until then, thank you very much for watching, have a great Christmas, happy holidays. I should see you before the new year, I'd imagine. I'm going to order a few more parts now. I've got a couple of CEX vouchers to spend, so I'm going to buy a couple of bits and pieces on there, and hopefully they'll arrive soon and we can get to testing them. So as always, thank you, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.